So we've been following Donald Trump's recovery from coronavirus. It's been a very up and down, erratic period with various completely unbelievable and deceptive claims from Donald Trump's doctor and Donald Trump triumphantly returning to the White House and then gasping for air visibly. We've been tracking it all. We know Donald Trump has received a variety of different medications, and we've also observed this week Donald Trump has again gone back to doing rallies this week. And we've observed that in the evenings at the rallies, Trump seems hopped up. And I mean that colloquially. He's speaking very, very quickly. He's more red, and I think this is even accounting for the makeup. He's more red and sort of sweaty than we typically see. And the speculation, of course, is that he is still either receiving steroids as part of his treatment, which are kind of giving him this energy, or possibly he's being given a steroid like to suppress a cough and to energize him because he is still potentially struggling with the effects of coronavirus. As we know from the millions of cases of coronavirus that we've now seen, sometimes you'll have this 5 to 7 day period and you'll be feeling better. And then later you'll be feeling worse. And it can be tough to shake it sometimes even for months, particularly for folks in their 70s and 80s, as Donald Trump is. Well, yesterday we had a Trump event earlier in the day for the first time in a while. Donald Trump's events have tended to be in the evenings. Earlier in the day yesterday, Donald Trump apparently not juiced up, and his voice was completely failing, suggesting he is really not doing as well as he would like us to think. And of course, with coronavirus, it could go any way at any time in terms of a return to more serious symptoms. So take a look at this first clip. This is from an event Trump did. He was in the Rose Garden and he was speaking via teleconference to a number of different economic clubs, the New York Economic Club, and I think a couple of others. And Trump just really struggling here. Take a look at this.
Simply put, it's a choice between a socialist nightmare and the American dream.
And this continued throughout the entire event. Here's another one of these, just pausing, struggling to speak, having to catch his breath, clearing throat, cough, etc.
Instead of corrupt and horrendous trade deals written by lobbyists and special interests, again, some of you, I negotiated pro-American trade deals based on the principles of fairness and reciprocity. Very important. I ended the NAFTA nightmare and signed the brand new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement into law. I've taken the toughest ever action against China's chronic trade abuses that we all know so well.
Really sounding terrible. And of course, this is naturally, he's 74 and he had coronavirus a week ago, causing speculation to run rampant about, is Trump contagious? How serious is Trump's case? What are the symptoms he's having? Should he really be doing these rallies? Now, of course, sounding like that doesn't mean you're contagious. Sounding like that doesn't even mean it's not even necessarily because of coronavirus. People get coughs and difficulty speaking from non-coronavirus of viruses and conditions as well. But it does raise questions about just how well Donald Trump is doing. Now, also during this event, Trump referred. It wasn't just how he sounded. The things he said also were extremely disturbing. Trump referenced globalists again. And that's another one of those words where we wonder, does Trump know that in many right-wing circles and conspiratorial circles, globalist is code for crafty Jews, that these are sort of interchangeable terms? Or does Trump not have any idea? We don't know, but Trump using the term anyway.
The last administration sold out American workers like never before. And they sold them to donors, special interests, and globalists. And if you take a look, we have probably plenty of them watching right now. And I understand where you're coming from, but didn't work out too well with me.
So, yeah, that is a term that has much like America First, which sounds sort of innocuous, but has a very ugly past. That is a term with an ugly past, and unclear if Donald Trump knows it. Of course, as far as we know, other people are writing Donald Trump speeches. Hard to tell sometimes whether Trump is ad-libbing or reading off of the prompter. Who knows? But Trump continuing to use that term without really understanding it. Donald Trump also claimed during this event that the country, if Joe Biden is elected, will experience a worse depression than 1929. Take a listen to this.
Because they will destroy this country. Our country will go into a depression, the likes of which we have not seen since 1929, and maybe worse. So keep backing them but you know it's wrong. And I really do believe it's only habit. That's the only reason you can be doing it. Under my continued leadership.
So we've looked at this in depth. If you watch this show, if you listen to my podcast, you know that the economy does better under Democratic presidents than Republicans. There is no qualitative or quantitative case to be made that would support a cratering economy if Joe Biden is president. And as we talked about earlier today, even the right-wing American Enterprise Institute says Joe Biden's tax plan would actually be fine for the economy. And the tax hikes would go to the richest 5%. 95% of the country would get a tax decrease under Joe Biden. So not based in fact. Donald Trump continuing to use the talking point that he saved 2 million lives by whatever it is he did on coronavirus. Although if it weren't for Trump, he wants you to believe 2.2 million people would have died. Take a look.
Our aggressive and early action saved up to 2 million lives. If you look at the original numbers, it was projected at 2.2 million lives. We're at 210,000, and one is too many. It should have never happened, should have never been allowed to happen by China. Thanks to advances in treatment.
So I almost don't want to do this, but I think I should do it. This is the way that the numbers go. First, Donald Trump said we had 15 cases and they would soon be zero. Donald Trump then said we were going to keep the death toll under 50,000, then under 60,000. Once it got to 70, he said it would be under 100. Once it got to 100, Trump said it would be under 200. Once it became clear it would be more than 200, now Donald Trump is saying, listen, 2.2 million people could have died. So that's the number if literally no one does anything. And remember, even if Trump did nothing, as he did nothing initially, governors were still going to do things. So this idea of 2.2 million deaths is ridiculous. But here's where the number comes from. 331 million people live in the United States. If you assume no measures whatsoever until there is herd immunity, it just spreads. That would suggest about 70% of the country would get the virus. At that point, you would have achieved herd immunity. So 70% of 331 million is about 231 million people. With a 1% death rate, or just below 1% death rate, if you do nothing and 70% of the country gets infected, you would expect somewhere between 2.1 and 2.3 million people to die. But again, that is doing nothing. That's every other country does stuff. And we do nothing. No governors do anything. No masks. Trump does nothing. It's a crazy comparison. It's laughable and idiotic to still be mentioning it. But because we went from 0 deaths to 50,000, 60, 70, 80, 100, 200, now 220,000 or more, Donald Trump now has to say, well, listen, we could have lost 2.2 million people. I don't think Trump would have survived a situation in which the death toll was going to be 2.2 million, but that's a story probably for a different day. We'll continue discussing this on the David Pakman Show Instagram, David Pakman Show. And while you are on Instagram, follow me at david.pakman. We'll take a quick break and be back after this. I want to take a second to tell you about one of our sponsors, S&H Masks. S&H Masks has everything you need when it comes to face masks and other protective gear for COVID-19, and they're giving my audience 20% off. S&H Masks is the company that I've personally been going to for face masks. I love and trust the products they sell, and that's actually why I reached out to them about being a sponsor. I've tried tons of different face masks this year, like many of you, and I still have not found a mask that is more comfortable or easier to breathe in than the washable cotton masks that they sell. It's made of a silky, lightweight cloth that feels great on the skin, has a convenient adjustable strap, and it features a disposable 5-layer particle filter made of activated carbon. They also have disposable cloth masks, which are really comfortable, as well as all of the other gear like face shields, alcohol wipes, no-touch infrared thermometers, and all of their prices are very reasonable. I also love S&H Masks because they've donated over 60,000 masks to healthcare institutions. They're an excellent company. Shipping is just $5 and shipping is free on orders over $150. You can get there by going to davidpakman.com/mask. The link is under this video, and you can save 20% on everything in their store when you use the coupon code DAVID.